incomers, the topic of conversation, as some were recently highlighted by a guy that I've always liked his work, Craig Hobart, who is a scout now is he on 3 or is he, we work together at ESPN? Where is he now, Caleb? I think
this article is on ESPN, so I believe he's still on ESPN.
Okay, so he's still at ESPN. Good for Craig. And he's kind of compadres with Tom Luganbill there. But he showcased several Tennessee incoming players that he thought would have a big impact for the Vols. Let's take a look at some of those. The tenor of Craig's column was, I thought, pretty heavy on the transfer side, and it should be. That's where we are in this day and age of college football, and that's also where Tennessee is taking advantage of the transfer portal, which they should continue to do. What was your takeaway before we get to 4 downs, just in general, of Tennessee's incoming players and what Craig Hobart had to say? I have one specifically I want to get to, but first, what was your takeaway from that call?
Honestly, my biggest takeaway was a good sign for Tennessee, which is that, yes, they're number 16. And for those who don't know, this is ranking the combination of your recruiting class plus your transfer class and who's going to have the most impact. I think being number 16 is a very good sign for Tennessee, only because, yes, there were 4 SEC teams ahead of them, but those SEC teams were Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn. Actually, excuse me, I think just 3 SEC teams. But the reason I bring that up is most of the teams you'll see on here were teams that were mediocre to bad last year and are just desperately trying to revamp their program. You don't see a lot of top 10 teams in the top 20 on here from last year because this is about looking for instant impact players. So for Tennessee to be in the top 20, having been in the top 10 last year, is a good sign. Now, that number 1 is USC, and they were top 10 last year, but they're not in the SEC. It honestly, the more I think about it, USC maybe more dangerous than I thought.
Yet with conference realignment, who knows? A couple of weeks they may get announced from moving to the Big Ten to the SEC at SEC Media Days. No, I thought the very same thing. I mean, to be 16 and even be on this list, and you look at the number of returnees that Tennessee has defensively. I know the offensive line is in a slight rebuild with Darnell Wright. But you have a new quarterback, obviously, but I think Tennessee feels good about where they are there. I think to be at 16, and if you can, give me the other SEC schools that are ahead of Tennessee, but I want to break down some of these impact newcomers. As to be at 16 is a very positive sign because there aren't a lot of places for guys to come in and play. You would say linebacker, offensive line. There's always room for a defensive lineman or two, such as defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott. I mean, there's always going to be room for guys like that. Receiver they could use. I think their receivers were fine without Dante Thornton, but he comes in. So the fact that you have some availability and you filled it, I think is a very positive sign. So say 16th best in the nation or not, which would be, I guess, 4th in the SEC. I still think that's pretty good.
Sorry. Yeah.
They're what?
I think they're 5th. I think I got it wrong. But
I'll
say, okay, so going through them. So the one that's ahead of Tennessee that they should be concerned about, and it's the highest ranked in the SEC, and for this is for all of you who say I'm a homer for LSU. I'm not. They're ranked highest of all SEC teams, and they won the West last year. So before you call me a homer, they're ranked number 4 on this list.
4 is impressive, but not surprising. You would think there are a lot of guys that perhaps went to another school that are from the state of Louisiana. So I would think that would be a natural transfer portal type of move to get guys to come back to the state of Louisiana. So I'm not surprised. I don't think that Brian Kelly will build his program on transfers at all, but I think he's going to have the ability to go out and cherry pick some guys, kind of like how Alabama did with Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm still not 100% sure the evolution of college football, if this is going to turn into 60% transfer guys, 70% transfer guys, or 20% transfer guys. I don't think you and I know right now, Caleb. But right now, I like the approach that Alabama has, and that is build strong from the high school ranks and be strong within, and add a couple of really good pickups like they did with Jahmyr Gibbs last year. So that's kind of where I see it going, but I'm still not 100% sure. So who else in the SEC is ahead of Tennessee? And then we're going to break down their newcomers as 4 downs.
Okay, and now we get to the people they shouldn't worry about, because number 8 on this list is Auburn. I think you and I both agree that's a desperation because they needed the transfer portal because they just totally rerouted.
Yep. New coach, a lot like Josh Heupel when NIL came about, when you had the new coach, which in some ways I think is a benefit to getting NIL funds put together. You have a new coach at Auburn and Hugh Freeze, and the boosters there are going to spend money. So not surprised to see them at all, and they need help. Desperation might be a little strong, Caleb, but they do need help. All right, who else?
Another one. Now, this isn't new coach or rebuilding, but this is a guy that, as we've talked about, is doing the opposite of what you say should be done, which is building his program solely on the transfer portal. So Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss at number 11.
This is the way Lane's going to roll. I mean, I'm just sorry. It's set in stone. He doesn't feel like that he can pay players on a 2-3 year basis with NIL money. He doesn't think that money's there. And he's going to live and die by the transfer portal in 2023 and in 2028 if he's still at Ole Miss. That's the way he's going to roll. He's made up his mind. There's no changing. He will be up towards the top of this list each and every year. Who's next?
Next on the list is Arkansas at number 13. That's another desperation one. They were very disappointing last year, and they need to revive their program quickly under Sam Pittman. And so, again, I don't think Tennessee should worry about Arkansas being ahead of them.
And I love Sam Pittman. And I really respect Arkansas's program. People hear me rip on Missouri all the time, but I thought Arkansas was a great fit back in 1992 when they added them to the conference. I love a lot about that program and Sam Pittman, but my goodness gracious, do they have any chance of competing with Oklahoma and Texas in the conference when Arkansas was known for recruiting those areas and saying, hey, you get to play in the SEC. Well, hey, now you get to stay home and play in the SEC. I don't know where Arkansas ends up in the next 5 years, but I do like Sam Pittman.
And they massively downgraded an offensive coordinator when they brought in Dan Enos. He's no Kendall Briles. I think I'm with you. I like Sam Pittman. You know, for those who don't know, he coached at Tennessee in 2012 with Derek Dooley and Jim Chaney in that record-setting offense, funny enough. But I'm with you. I don't see where they can go from here. Although they had more success when they played in the Southwest Conference for years. They won some Southwest Conference titles back in the day, but just long term.
Let me ask the message board here because I know we have a ton of Tennessee fans. We got a lot of South Carolina fans. We get a lot of LSU fans because Caleb loves them. And from all over the place.
Well, I love it because Derek Dooley coached there, guys. That's where he
That's true. I understand. But do you have a secondary team that you root for? So if you're primarily Tennessee, South Carolina, or whoever, I'm curious on the message board because I root for Arkansas a little bit because of Pittman and because of I think his inclination to run the ball first, which we don't see nowadays in any level of football. High school, college, and pro. I like that. I'm an old school 92 Cowboys lining up I formation. Let's go. I know that's dated, but I kind of root for Sam Pittman in Arkansas, given everything equal.
To be fair, that 92 Cowboys team could run that offense today and they'd win a Super Bowl. They were just that loaded.
Yeah, I love you, Caleb. You just made my day. All right.
There is one team. There's one last team ahead of Tennessee, and it doesn't really. It's another one that doesn't. I don't think that scares him, and it's Kentucky. Now, Devin Leary to Kentucky is scary because I think he's significantly better than Will Levis. And
I wonder too, when you make these lists, you're not supposed to theoretically weigh a quarterback more than other positions, but what do? You weigh a quarterback more than other positions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's like 3 running backs and a receiver.
Exactly. And so
one good quarterback that could change the direction of your program from Limpy Levis to a new guy, or would it be Gimpy Levis? That doesn't sound as good without the alliteration. I think you're going to.
If you're Tennessee, you're grateful that Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina are all behind you. those are the teams you want to be behind you in this list. You agree, Dave?
Yes, yes, I do. And I'm reading the message board at the same time. Smoky Mountain Red. Good question, but I cannot think of one. Somebody he roots for besides Tennessee. At least that's what I'm drawing from Smoky Mountain Red. Also, Travis says, I do. My secondary team is Alabama to lose to anyone. Rocky Top Tom says, I don't like any other SEC teams, but I absolutely pull for whoever plays against Alabama each and every week. And then Mr. Jones beats my alliteration game. Loser Levis. Little harsh. What should people
do? I used to root
do?
for Duke in football when David Cutcliffe was there. I root for coaches. If I respect a coach, I like to see the coach do well. And then
Agreed.
I root for who I pick.
Agreed. And I root for people too. Like, I'll be honest with you. You know I'm a Cowboys fan. But if Eric Berry and the Kansas City Chiefs had met the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, I would have, not overtly, but I would have quietly rooted for the Chiefs. I would still have the family put on their Cowboys gear that I do every Sunday. And I do that. But I would have rooted for the Chiefs for Eric Berry because he's the greatest individual that I ever covered.
I mean, I wish I could say the same thing, but if the Grizzlies are in the finals last year, I'm rooting for Ja Morant, and I don't care how terrible of a human and how he is. Like
over Grant Williams of the Celtics.
Yes, and in the NFL, I'm rooting for. I don't care if Will Levis does become the starter. I'm not a fan of. I was a Cortland Finnegan fan. Okay, so I mean, you got to throw character out the window with that one.
I didn't think we'd get a Cortland Finnegan shout out, but we did. Travis says Dave loves this. I wonder if he's talking about the hate on the message board, because I do love the hate on the message board. Smoky Mountain Red, I'll post. Yeah, I hate all other SEC teams. Rocky Top Tom, though, does say, I would truly like to see Arkansas do something just because they used to be great and our annual game with them used to actually mean something. Thank you for playing along, Rocky Top Tom. Whereas Smoky Mountain Red follows up with, they can all lose every game and bowl games as well. I'm not a root for an SEC team and a bowl game fan. The more they lose, the better it helps in recruiting. Actually, very true. But I do.
And so, like, the whole, like, SEC, Big Ten, my conference is better. That was cool when it was like 10 teams to a conference. When you're at 16 teams and your super conferences, like, there's no, like it used to be like my region superior to your region. What's your region now? Okay, Miami and Dallas are not the same region remotely.
Yeah. My region is Rutgers and Ventura Boulevard at the same time in LA.
Yes.
Those are my regions now. All right. What do we need to do, Jacob?
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
He does. All right. 4 Downs is now, as we continue to talk about Tennessee and what they brought in this particular class, via breakdown with Craig Hobart of ESPN, who quite a good job, if I do say so myself. 4 Downs now is brought to you by Craft Treats, crafttreats.com for more.
4 Downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, the first question, first down, what transfer will have the biggest impact? 4 Downs brought to you by Craft Treats. Go to crafttreats.com, use the promo code OFFTHEHOOK, the promo code OFFTHEHOOK, and you will get 20% off of your purchase. They have the chill pills with the CBD derivatives that will help with your pet's anxiety, that will help with your pet's arthritis or digestive issues. Again, crafttreats.com. Use the promo code OFFTHEHOOK. They've got the chill pills with CBD or other fantastic treats, 20% off with the promo code OFFTHEHOOK. What transfer will have the biggest impact for Tennessee this upcoming season? So we're talking about names like linebacker Keenan Pilley, offensive lineman John Campbell, defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott, wide receiver Dante Thornton. And then linebacker Arian Carter. Those were the players designated by
Aaron
Craig.
Carter's a recruit, not a transfer.
I'm sorry.
Aaron Carter was a recruit, not a transfer.
Yeah. So top newcomers. Those were the ones designated by Craig Hobart as top impact newcomers. So this is a combination of transfers and freshmen. Continue to hear great stuff out of Arian Carter. I have trouble picking him though, because I just don't expect anything out of freshmen until I see it on the field in the fall. So let's go with first down. Who will have the biggest impact this fall? You can pick out of this list, which I think is pretty all-encompassing, or you can go a completely different direction. I don't know where.
Okay, so are we asking? I know it combines transfers and recruits, but is first down is what transfer will have the biggest impact, or what newcomer period will have the biggest impact?
Let me say newcomer.
Okay, newcomer. Okay, so
I don't think I guess the slip of the tongue is because it really doesn't change anything in my mind. I'm going to pick a transfer each and every year before I'll pick an incoming high school player. Now they may prove me wrong one day, but that's kind of where I am. All right, so what incomer will have the biggest impact?
I think that's pretty obvious. I think it's Keenan Healy. Tennessee needs a Jeremy Banks replacement, and I'm pretty sure Keenan Healy is pretty obvious as the newcomer. That's going to have the biggest impact for them.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate, but I agree with you. Okay, so I think that when you look at Keenan Healy, I don't know that he's a playmaker impact player. So does that mean other people could step in and play that position possibly? And that being the case, if John Campbell starts every game this season, he's not going to have stats because offensive linemen don't get stats. So I'll agree with you with Peely, but I'll say a close second would be John Campbell because I think he ends up starting every game at left tackle as long as he's healthy. So what incoming player does Tennessee need to have the biggest impact?
I'm going freshman here. They're not named, but they need Jordan Matthews or Ricky Gibson to have the biggest impact. They need a cornerback to step up yesterday. And given how horrible the play was there last year, they need one badly.
That's really good. I can't argue with that one. I'm going to say, though, John Campbell, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but they've decided they were going to flip-flop their offensive line like they did with Darnell Wright last year and move the guys who played in the left side to the right side from 2022 to 2023, respectively. So John Campbell, if he can't play, blows that whole idea up. Not only is he bad at his position, but then in preseason camp, you would have to shift guys back to the left side. So I will go John Campbell. Not to beat a dead horse, let's put some more pressure on John Campbell, everyone. Okay, so what freshman, now specifically freshman because I misspoke earlier with newcomer, but what freshman not named Arian Carter will have the biggest impact this fall?
See, I'm sticking with, again, it's going to be Jordan Matthews or Ricky Gibson.
Yeah, same for you.
It's going to be one of them.
Yeah, I will go with Matthews in that regard. I'm going to pick one over the other just based off what I heard. I think he's slightly more ready to play, and I think that would also have it would make a huge statement for Tennessee to be able to get a guy out of Louisiana and have success with him off the get. So feel free to give me your thoughts as we dive into fourth down. So in this column, a guy that I've referenced before, and some people have given me a hard time about it because his name's not Joe Milton. So go ahead and give me a hard time. But a guy named Nico. Let's try that again. I'm having one of those days. All right, a guy named Nico is listed as 1A. That struck me. Would you describe Nico as 1A?
No, not a chance. I would have before spring ball, but I think it's very clear Joe Milton's a starter.
I wouldn't either. I as much as I like this column, I wouldn't go 1A. I think that he's 2. I think he's a solid 2 because Gaston Moore is a solid 3. But yeah, I don't think there's a competition there. Now, we may come to a point, just like with the first year with Hooker and Milton, that we say there should have been a competition. I don't get any sense that Tennessee is vacillating on its quarterbacks. Another note, name we didn't mention, Ethan Davis, and that's a pretty good one. Ethan Davis is an incredibly athletic tight end. Could he come in as a freshman and have an impact? Absolutely. I could see him having 20 catches, a couple of significant ones, because he's that athletic. I think he's a bit of a project. I think his best days are going to be ahead of him, like the 2024 season, but that's a good one. I like that one quite a bit. So, but Caleb, ultimately, when we talk about Tennessee's biggest incoming players, it seems like Peely is the one that is the most sure thing. And that was your pick for biggest impact. So, Peely,
I think Keely's
seems like the easy one.
Peely's the definitely the easiest one. He's a clear cut. He's already a starter. Gabe Giuliani is possible because I think Gabe Giuliani, we talked about he's going to play. We just don't know where yet. But he's going to play somewhere in the secondary, but he's not going to start anywhere. We know Peely's going to start.